Dogworks Radio is sponsored by Alaska Dogworks. Check out their website at alaskadogworks.com. From First Paw Media, sponsored by First Paw Coffee Company, this is the Dog Driver Show. Visit our website at dogworksradio.com. Now here are your hosts, Robert Forto and Kurosh Parto.
Hello and welcome everybody. This is Robert and I'm here with my co-host KP and we are the Dog Driver Show. And today we have a good friend of ours from the Chugiak Dog Mushers Association. Her name is Debora Summers. KP, what do you know about Debora?
Deb, I know Deb for a while actually. For years and years. Originally, Deb started having dogs for the kids actually, like several other dog drivers I know actually. And the kids obviously, they all grow and they go to college and they move on. And the parents, they get the bug, and before you know, the parents are racing. I know several people in the same case, and she's been very, very competitive in the limited class and Dryland, and 4-dog class. She does a lot of 4-dog classes, limited North American Championship and Azure Championship, Eagle River Classic, of course, and she's been heavily involved in the Chugiak Dog Musher Association, part of the board. Very important part of our board here in our club, and she was the founder of the original the Dryland Derby, which was actually the very, very first Dryland event in state of Alaska, in my knowledge. And welcome to the show, Deb. And for our listeners, tell us a little bit about who you are and what are you all about.
Well, thank you for having me, both of you. And you couldn't have stated it better. I started off in dog mushing because of my children. And when they were young, we started adding dogs to our kennel. And like you said, when they left the nest, I ended up with a kennel of dogs that I am more than happy to train and run.
And tell us, how many dogs do you have right now? And what are you planning to do this year?
Okay, well, I currently have 12 dogs. I do have some older dogs that are retired, but my current plans are to still run in the 4-dog class. I'll probably, unfortunately, we weren't able to do Dryland this year, but I think I will be concentrating on Dryland and the 4-dog class from here on out.
Deb, you mentioned the Dryland. So tell us about the Dryland, your passion in that specialty for our sport, and Dryland overall in Alaska.
Well, we started doing Dryland here at Chugiak back in 2014, and I guess it was a little selfish on my part because I love to bike and I love dogs, and it was a way to combine the two sports. And with the number of small kennels that were growing here in Alaska, and with the limitation on early snow, it just seemed like a natural progression to start Dryland here. So we have been doing it for 6 years now, and it's been a fabulous part of our sport, both here in Chugiak as well as in other parts of the state. Other organizations have added Dryland events to their schedules as well.
So, you are a very important part of this Dryland Derby that we have in Chugiak. Tell us how you organize this event and what's behind the scene of this event.
Wow. Well, it definitely is not something that's done alone. These events are done with a huge number of volunteers. And at Chugiak, we're lucky in that we have an outstanding group of volunteers that help not just Dryland, but our snow events. But to organize the Dryland, it starts from getting the web created so that people know what's out there and available, getting sponsors to help. We've been so lucky in that we've had some major sponsors over the last few years provide a purse, Alaska Dog Works, Speedy Glass, Trek, REI, a whole bunch of sponsors that are willing to donate either merchandise or money to encourage more participants. At Chugiak, we have some other considerations that other organizations in the lower 48 might not have, such as we have to be concerned about not just maintaining the trail properly for dryland, but making sure there's no bear or moose on the trail.
That's right.
And making sure that it's safe for all of our participants. So between registration and sponsors and volunteers, there's a lot that goes on behind the scene. But we are very lucky in that we have a fabulous group of members and volunteers that step up for this.
That is, it's interesting what Deb said. I forgot about it, Deb. A few years ago, we had actually a grizzly bear on our trail during the Dryland event, and we had trail guards with pistols and shotguns holding the trail.
Yes, and we positioned some boom boxes out on the trail with music really loud to keep the animals off the trail.
Only in Alaska, Deb. Only in Alaska. Yes. Deb, with our sport evolving and with the weather changing, climate change overall, how do you see dryland sport evolving in our state?
Oh, that's a really good question, KP. I think it helps get new participants into the sport. I've seen that over the last 6 years, that we've had folks that have pet dogs that they come out and they do canicross, or they're interested and they attend one of our seminars, one of our introduction to dryland sport classes that we have, and they ending up with 2, 3, 4, 5 dogs, and they then build their little micro kennel and participate in that way. But I also see it, actually I see this in 3 ways. The other way is that mushers that currently have kennels use it for training. It's fabulous training. You can get your dogs out there earlier in the season, and you can do jihad training and do specific type of training that you wouldn't necessarily be able to do otherwise. And then I think on the end of it, almost like the 3 cycles of life, I think folks like myself that have smaller kennels and some aging dogs, it still allows us to participate in a sport that we're very passionate about, but we don't have to have a huge kennel and the expenses involved with large kennels to stay involved.
Yeah, that is, we are seeing that more and more, and like Deb said, the smaller kennels, they can easily participate in this event. When you started organizing the Dryland event, what was, obviously you mentioned you love biking and you love training dogs, and that was behind basically the plans. But how did you believe that it's going to get so big realistically? You have 40-some teams coming and racing at this race.
Well, I think I hoped that would happen. Based upon the little bit of research that I did, I spoke with a lot of individuals that had done dryland either in the lower 48 or in Europe or in other places, and saw how popular it was. So I was hoping that it would be a good part and a large part of what people do with dog mushing. So I can't say for sure that I knew that it would take off the way it did. I'm very pleased that it has, and I think it can only get larger. It was unfortunate that we didn't have events this year. However, I think that won't hinder people from participating, in future years.
Yeah, for our listeners who are not familiar with that, she's passionate about Dryland. Actually, she traveled last year all the way to the United States and through Canada to participate in bike touring and some of the Dryland events they have down in the lower 48. Tell us about that journey.
That was an amazing journey. I did that with a fellow musher, Pam Schomburg, and we ended up putting about 10,000 miles on our vehicle. Yeah. We towed a little trailer, so we had a place to sleep, and we took, I think it was 9 dogs with us. But what was really nice about that trip, aside from seeing all the countryside, was determining and meeting with people from other organizations and seeing how they ran their dryland races. We did 2 races in the lower 48. We did the Bristol Dryland Derby and came back with a lot of ideas that we are hoping to incorporate once we get back up and running next year here at Chugiak. But it was fabulous to see how other people ran their races and meet their dogs and see how they train.
Yeah, definitely.
Deb, I have a question in regard to sort of where you see things right now. On our show, we have a heck of a lot of folks from all over the world tell us what their passion is in the sport, whether it be the dryland or the snow races. And in Alaska in particular, there's a heck of a lot of history with mushing. How hard was it to convince the Alaskans to do this quote unquote new form of dog driving with the dryland? Because we're brought up with the snow sports here, but now with climate and everything, we're being introduced to an entire different side of the dog sports. What are your thoughts on that?
Wow, I think once again, we have so many different backgrounds of people that attend these events. The bikers and runners that normally would train with their dogs, I don't think it was much of a stretch. I think for some of the mushers that had never gone out on bikes or ran with their dogs, it might have been something that took a little bit of doing to get them involved, but once they were involved, they loved it. And the fact that we have different events, you don't have to be on a bike if you don't like a bike. You can use a cart, and a lot of mushers would prefer to be on a cart with a bigger team because that's more what they know. So as to whether we had to really encourage people, I think it was a mix. I think some people were very excited about it, and some people wanted to test the waters a little bit, and then once they dipped their foot in the water, they really enjoyed it.
Right. One other question I have with regard to your trip that you did down south. For folks that listen, most of them are not involved with the sport. They're just dog lovers. And a lot of people find it really interesting that people will fly all over the country, all over the world for these sprint races where you're literally done in less than a half an hour. You're starting and you're done in less than the time that it would take to watch a sitcom. What are your thoughts on that? Is it worth it? What's the reason for this travel for the half hour of fun?
I know it's so right, Robert. When you're doing a one dog event and it's less than a mile and a half, you wonder whether we're sane. I think both Pam and I, we went with the knowledge that it wasn't the length of the race that was causing us to go. We both loved the sport. We do love the sport, and so we were curious as to see, well, are we actually competitive with people in the lower 48? We also are both lucky enough that we have family in the Midwest, so we were able to incorporate some family time with our trip, so it wasn't just for mushing. But yeah, I think a lot of people might have said we were a bit crazy.
KP, what else do you have for Deborah?
Deb, also another thing I want to talk about is you mentioned you started in the sled dog sport with the girls, and being a mom, sharing the passion with your children. You participated, they participated in the Arctic Winter Games. How important is keeping the youth involved in our sport for the next generations?
It's incredibly important. It's important to keep our sport going, and I think it's important as a way for young children to develop responsibility and maturity. I see, at least from my experience, my children and how they developed into just beautiful young adults because of dog mushing. You can't be a dog musher and not be responsible. You have too much to take care of. You've got dogs. You have to feed, water, clean up, do everything that's involved. And if your children are actively involved with that, it turns them into just these amazingly responsible young adults. I think that to keep our sport going, we have to encourage the youth to participate. And I think that's the benefit of Dryland and having smaller micro kennels. The expense of a large kennel can deter families from wanting to get into this sport, although I'm not sure it's any less expensive than hockey. But you can do this sport with a few dogs, and you don't have to invest in a large team in order to be part of the sport.
When was the last time that you did the Arctic Winter Game?
Wow. It's been a while. My kids have grown and gone, so probably 10 years now, KP.
And for our listeners who are not familiar with this event, explain to us or tell us about the Arctic Winter Games.
The Arctic Winter Games is a competition for countries that are in the polar regions. So Alaska, we're obviously, in the northern part, in the northern territories, Canada, Greenland, countries that have traditionally winter sports. I hesitate to say that it's just a competition because it's so much more than that. Youth get together and they do compete, but they also have activities and exchanges, international, just cultural exchanges where they get to learn about other people in other countries. I felt it was an incredibly valuable experience for my girls. They were lucky enough that they were both of my children were able to attend. And beyond being able to compete with people from other countries, they were able to exchange ideas and learn about other cultures and be exposed to different ways of living and thinking.
Debora, I have just a couple of more questions before we let you go here. My first one is in regard to the pandemic. You've talked a little bit about it here in the show, and we're going to air this show in early December, pretty much right before the big mushing season kicks off. What are your thoughts moving forward, not only this season, but in the next few seasons? Where do you see the sport in the next couple of years?
Are you asking with regards to the pandemic, Robert?
Yes. Like, do you think it's going to go on as normal? Do you think that the sport's going to die down some? What are your thoughts moving forward in it?
I think dog mushers are very supportive of keeping events going. And I think that we have all learned a lot about how to promote and host safe events. I think early on there was this big unknown, but I think at this point we're learning and we're basing decisions on what other organizations are doing and how other events are being hosted. And I absolutely see us hosting events, whether they're dryland events or snow events. I think they'll be hosted responsibly, and there may be some changes in format, but I think it just took a little bit of time to get comfortable and have a learning curve as to what we need to do as an organization in order to host a safe event for our participants as well as any volunteers or spectators.
Do you think that there's going to be a real travel restriction in the coming years with some of these really big races, not just Dryland, but some of the, the Rondies and the La Paz and Stage Stop and all these others with international folks coming over to race in some of these?
I certainly hope not, although I'm in no position to answer that. But I really hope that that's not the case, because part of these large races that are hosted, especially here in Alaska, we have so many people that come over from other countries, whether it's just driving through Canada, from the lower 48, Canadians, Europeans that come over. I think it would be really sad to not have those participants here for these events.
So my last question for you, Debora, is the question I ask all of our guests here on the show, and that is, if somebody is just getting involved with the sport, whether it's snow sports, dryland, canicross, Iditarod, whatever, and they came to you for one piece of advice, what would you tell them?
Find someone that is in the sport doing what you think you might want to do and buddy up with them and learn everything you can about it.
That's good advice. KP, anything else for Debora in closing?
Deb, I wanted to thank you for being part of the show and for everything you do for our club, for CDMA. And looking forward to see you on the trails again, and see you tonight at the board meeting, I guess.
Thank you both. I appreciate being here.
Thank you very much. On behalf of our guest today, Debora Summers, this is Robert Forto and Robert Forto for The Dog Driver. We will see you guys next time. Goodbye.
From First Paw Media, this is The Dog Driver Show. We hope you enjoyed this podcast, and we invite you to subscribe in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll find a link on the episode notes. You can tap or swipe on the episode cover art, and you can see some offers from our sponsors. You can support our show by supporting them. If you like what you have heard, we would love it if you could give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe too. Your hosts are Robert Forto and Robert Forto. Our producer is Robert Forto and created for First Paw Media.